Hey, welcome to the All Ambient Podcast, everybody. Great to have you, where we dig into the creative process and explore the minds of, I can't do this with a straight face, apparently. I explore the minds of some wonderful people behind some of the finest ambient music out there. I'm Mike Graff. So glad to be here with Ben Tatlow, with Kirk Smith, with Marshall Usinger. Hi, guys. Good to see you. How's it going today?
All right, man. It's good to see you guys, too.
Good to be here.
Awesome. Amazing. We have some interesting music news to dig into this week. This was, as far as time of recording, this happened fairly recently, right up to record date. The CEO and I believe co-founder of Suno, Mikey Shulman, just did an interview with Billboard. And yeah, we all have thoughts about Suno. Clearly, there's a lot going on in the AI music space right now. This, I guess I was maybe blindly hoping that this would be Mikey's opportunity to be like, hey, you know what? It's all going to be fine. Or I don't know, just to give him a chance to defend Suno in a way that was going to make musicians and songwriters and producers feel better. And I don't know if he did that for me, but we will have plenty to talk about. We'll kind of launch into things, but yeah, we'll put a link to the podcast episode with Billboard in the show notes, so you can go take a listen to what Mikey had to say to the Billboard staff. But yeah, as much as I've probably got a fully loaded gun and just ready to kind of blast into this, I think I need to be quiet for a second, and I would love to hear us just kind of talk about maybe what jumped out at this. And I have a feeling it's going to go multiple different directions. We talked a little bit right before we hit record on what you guys were sort of thinking from this, and I think we are going to go multiple different directions. And we'll just kind of touch on different things. But yeah, what do you guys think of what Mikey had to share with the world and where Suno is headed and where AI in music is headed?
I'll go first.
Yeah, Kirk, you will. Kirk.
Yeah, take it. Take the heat. See what happens. Well, it was interesting because I felt like when I was listening to the talk, I was like, okay, he seems like a generally nice guy. He's intelligent. He's kind of into music, but he seems temperamentally definitely more on the side of like metrics and software and, you know, consumer optimization and all these kind of things. And he had some cool things to say about like, what did he say? Like San Diego versus LA and like kind of understanding tech bros versus, yeah. Tech bros versus artists and kind of their different temperaments. And he feels like he's kind of in this middle space trying to bridge the gap. And so it's like, okay, like, yeah, like I like this guy. And then the thing I walked away from was not all the questions that were asked, but it was the questions that weren't asked. And because I remember last time our conversation, I felt like we left the conversation and we were like, if they had a way to compensate artists for their contributions, right, and it was all built in and it worked good, I was like, you know what? I think I would probably be okay with the Horizon.
Yeah. And you're referencing, we were talking about the movement that Sony's Correct. Making the movement on the AI detection. So what music was used to train, the AI used to train on to create.
Correct.
That
Which,
AI, yes. Totally.
Which that story came out probably after this interview happened between Billboard and Suno. Yeah. So maybe, you know, it's like, and they even said like, hey, this is like beginning of February and who knows what's going to happen in a month. So it's like, and that happened. But the thing that was never in all of their imaginations and musings about the Horizon, there was never any consideration of like, oh, so like, how do you think, what are your plans for paying artists, or what are your plans for paying contributors, or what are your plans for, you know, and there was one 5-second clip where she said something about taking copyrighted material. It's like, oh, well, we didn't take it. And then they like moved on to another question. And I kind of looked it up later. I was like, does Suno think what they did was illegal? And it's like that at this point, they're like, no, they don't think it was illegal at all. And so the fact that they don't think it's illegal means they don't think they owe anybody anything. And so I'm like, okay. And they never really, she never was like, maybe she was or she tried to, but he kind of dodged it to where it's like, you don't have to have a plan to pay people that you don't think you have to pay. And so I kind of liked him, but then I'm like, he doesn't really have a plan to pay anybody because he doesn't think he owes anybody anything. And I would be happy just to even hear him try to unpack it for 15 minutes of saying, okay, this is machine learning. So the machine is learning, just like I sit down and learn a breakbeat from whatever, a James Brown record, and I learn the beat and I grab samples from Splice and I program the beat. Now, have I interpolated? Well, I've interpolated, but is that copyright? Well, it's not, And so, but I'm a machine that's learning and then doing something myself. And so they're like, well, we built these machines and they're learning and they're making something new. It's like, so I would be happy for him to even try to sell me on why he thinks, you know what I'm saying? It's like, he didn't even do that. So I kind of walked away as like, oh, he doesn't really have a plan to pay anybody. And that's a little sad. That's
the
where
legality
I landed
of
at this point.
Isn't totally. Where he, I think just a little bit after he made that comment on fair use and whatever, the Billboard interviewer started asking him about the deals that are starting to go through, or there's at least one deal I think that went through with Warner, and it's like, well, why are you paying them, or like, why are you settling?
Yeah,
with
settlement.
them?
Yes.
Yeah, if he's like, well, it's not actually, we don't actually, I mean, he just kind of doubled down. He's like, we don't actually think we did anything wrong. We just think that they're kind of like culturally important, and record labels.
Yeah, it's not a settlement. It's a partnership.
So he's just like giving a fat check because, people think that they're cool. So here's some money and it'll just help us keep going, which just felt very flippant of, I don't know. Yeah,
it's not an admission of guilt. It's like, we want to build something for the future.
Yeah, totally.
I think the value question that you bring up is like at the absolute heart of that conversation, where you felt like his perspective was basically the value of AI generated music is the same as human made music, and the way he put it, as I understood it at least, was there's essentially an inevitability that AI generated music, be that fully or partially or just integrated in small ways into other music, is going to happen inevitably within the next kind of 5-10 years. And that's just going to be the situation that the industry finds itself, just in the same way. And he equated this, I think I'm right in saying, to like autotune, for example, where like, when that came on now everyone kind of uses it in some way, shape or form. But for me, that's like not really comparing apples with apples, because you're one thing, you're talking about a tool that allows a human artist to create, slightly better views, but themselves, they are going in and adjusting stuff. Even if there's, autotune can do kind of things itself, like you are very much in charge of what it's doing. Whereas you're prompting something and it's generating something, that is a totally different thing. You require very little skill apart from being able to write to be able to do that. And I do appreciate, like, it was helpful to hear him talk about, the different use cases of Suno. I felt like he kind of explained, that they're trying to create like more of a kind of social media ecosystem essentially around what they're doing. And I don't like absolutely hate that if it was kind of a walled garden situation. Yeah, like I don't mind that existing in a kind of walled garden way, to set aside the climate implications and all the rest of it. That kind of thing where people can kind of play with music, that's cool with me. The issue I have is his kind of like, well, yeah, but it should all be able to be on Spotify and everything else. And, and it shouldn't be labeled as such. Like he basically said, no, I don't think it should be, or it's kind of up to everyone else to figure this out. And I'm like, well, I appreciate, like, it's not just him who's created this problem, but like Suno is a big part of why this is now very much at the forefront of the kind of the issues that the artists are having with AI music. Like they need to, create a suggested solution to this that is going to work for human artists, without whom they would have no product or anything. So I feel like I wasn't satisfied. Like you're saying, Kurt, I was not satisfied with his kind of approach to like what this means moving forward. The tech is cool. That's great. But like, what does this actually mean in a sustainable way for human artists moving forward? And for me, his conclusion of it, basically everything is equal, it doesn't cut it for me. I fundamentally and morally disagree with that conclusion.
Yeah, totally. To even tack on to the very end of that, the fact that I think there's kind of this assumption that humans are going to not care whether something was built by AI or not, that we're just like, oh, well, if it's good music, it's good music. And like, I think there's a difference between something being like technically proficient, like that there aren't like out of tune or out of rhythm or things like that. That is one measuring stick. But also, like, if we are saying the story of the artist just doesn't matter at all anymore, or what happens with the rest of the release, or what happens on their social media, or you just, like what other things are they connected with in life, and what is their place in this world, instead of just, well, it's just a song. And like, it's just a weird thing to assume that humans just aren't going to care about how art has been created forever and ever, and that all of a sudden we're just like, well, I mean, if it sounds good, then it's fine. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, you look at anything out there, like, all the AI images and videos and all that stuff that are out in the social world now, and like, I kind of bristle when I see AI images now. Like it's not that I'm upset that they were created, period. Like, you look at it and you're like, that's something, but I'd rather see like an actual photo taken by an actual person, or a piece of art that was actually, brought to life by human hands and stuff. And that's, I promise I'm not a Luddite. Like, I've adopted, boatload of we all have, we're in a lot of senses, like working with tools that are cutting edge and whatnot, but this is it's almost more of like I don't know if ethical is the right word, but it really is a different conversation than just, hey, stay up to speed with the latest tech. And so, yeah, I don't know if the consumers are going to be as cool with that as one just like Mikey Shulman just kind of inherently assumes.
I completely agree, because I think for all of us, and taking aside our artists, profiles and, creating music, if you find a piece of music that you like on Spotify or wherever else, one of the first things you do is look them up on Instagram or look up their bio. And if you find out that this has not happened to me, but I've heard of many people for this, it's happened to them. Like, they find out that it's AI, they're like, you feel really let down. And you're not going to listen to that music. Yeah. So, like, at the very least, the kind of marking of it as AI is important. But, like, also, for me, that really speaks to the viability of AI-generated music in the long term, because I just don't think people want it. And I've heard quite a few people say that they strongly believe it's going to this is essentially a fad, just like NFTs were, and it will kind of, fizzle out to a very small niche in the long term. For me, that's best case. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think we could discuss, like, what that potential future is, like the balance between AI generated stuff and music, and whether it does really kind of intersect and merge, or whether actually real music just ultimately wins out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I have no idea, but my immediate reaction is that corporations and places that use music as a widget in their marketing plan, they're going to go straight to AI, and they're going to use that forever, and it'll be AI for Bud Light commercials and whatever. It's like, and that's just that it makes total sense for them for what they do, but I think there will be a reaction for people who want to connect with people. And so I think that when those things keep happening, like you're saying before, the industry will be like, oh, we're not going to actually make a lot of money on selling AI music to consumers. We'll make money selling AI music to, Target and Walmart, but we're not going to make it selling it to consumers. And so then they'll realize that they have to still have that part of the industry.
She asked him at one point too, like, I guess the implication or what his thought would be on like how much music was actually going to be uploaded to Spotify in the next few years as this kind of rolls out. I didn't have like a huge takeaway from that, other than he brushed that off just like many of the other things, but they were talking about the artist or whatever who made a track in 30 minutes or something, and they typed this in and 30 minutes later they had a finalized, like, pristine track. And I think I don't know. I'm still just struggling, like, wrapping my head around that people are just like okay with that. being a thing that you're calling like a creation of a track that you made. It's not a track that you made in 30 minutes. You really had nothing to do with making the track. So I'm like, and he said something like, well, I can't do that. Like, you know, he can do it because he's like a musical genius. You know, I'm just like this. And I'm like, well, yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, yeah, anybody's going to be able to do that. And that's kind of when she pushed him on like, well, how much music is going to be kind of, as people start doing this and, you know, more and more music comes on Spotify, what's going to happen there? And he was just kind of like, you know, I don't think everyone's going to do that. Maybe some people will. I mean, that point alone, I think will be interesting to just see how that plays out with if there's some, I don't know, regulation of sorts at some point, or at least disclaimer or whatever it's going to look like. But I think in general, for me, yeah, like the idea itself is just, I still have to kind of like take a couple steps back every now and then and just be like, this is like really a conversation and it's just kind of like bumming me out, you know? It's like, it's just bumming me out that we have to just be like, okay, we're essentially like talking about how real artists are concerned about their well-being because of this like AI fake technology crap. And yeah, I don't know. You guys know what I'm saying? I just kind of struggle like just getting actually like accepting that that's really happening.
And maybe not like, to the degree that, you know, it could, like worst case scenario, maybe it won't get there, but I do hear you.
Yeah. I do think too, like I feel like
Kirk's loading. Kirk is loading and ready. No, can't wait. But Marsh, finish up your thought, and then Kirk's gonna. I
feel like I've said similar thoughts before, just on like the you know, the cyclical nature of things. You know, the returning to the analog world, as it feels like many artists are doing, whether that's in music or in film or in photography. And I mean, photography is another good example where I'm kind of seeing like film is, you know, obviously becoming a huge thing again. And yeah, I do like to think in, you know, where I believe that there's like that there is good in the universe, that this will just be something that kind of phases out and people will be like, oh yeah, it's better to have things that are made by people, and that's what we can appreciate. So that's sort of where I'm choosing to park myself with it, if you will. But yeah, we'll see. I didn't, you know, the interview itself, though, I just, you know, I didn't have a huge kind of like takeaway moment or anything other than it was like, it felt very surface level. It felt very like he didn't want to answer any of the questions. Yeah, he seems like a nice guy. That's fine. But yeah, to me, it was just a very like typical tech, you know, interview kind of thing.
Tech bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only couple things I was thinking when you were talking, it was like, I had that same, when he talked about the 30-minute song being done, finished master, I kind of had the same reaction of like, dang. And it's like, okay, so now people are going to be churning out albums in a day and all these kind of things. But at the same time, I also had this feeling of like, well, like Coltrane did an album in a day because he was trying to get out of his contract, you know, and he had his guys, his band with him, and they did like 3 albums in a weekend. Now they were incredible musicians, you know, and
he's a genius.
Exactly. You know, exactly. But and you know, I hear the stories of like Bob Dylan did Blowing in the Wind in like 10 minutes or whatever, or things where I've been in a room in Nashville where there's a house band and they got the charts and the artist comes in and they literally like they knock out an EP in an afternoon, and Wrecking Crew doing an album a day. And it's like, and so thinking about these producers who are working with this technology, I can remember having to like bring a drum loop into Logic and then like change the BPM on the thing and then flex it and then rechange it, and then, you know, and I was like, oh, this is such a pain, you know, woe is me. I have to like train the DAW on the tempo of the beat. But now you can just bring in everything and everything syncs up. And so there is this part of me that's like, if you have a talented producer with an imagination and they're like, I want it to be like this and then be like this, be like this, and then it's like that, which is what you would do if you had, you know, a house band in your studio and you're all mic'd up and you're ready to go and you're just like, I want to do something that's like this and that's like this. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, that exists because all the guys in the room get it and they do it, which I've seen happen. They're kind of doing that with this technology. And so there's no friction between their imagination and what they can make. And there's a part of that that I'm kind of like, okay, like I can see how that is actually, it's actually creative. It's actually tapping into like, I have a vision and this thing is letting my imagination do the thing. So I think if people have a vision, they could make something that's good. And if it's not paying the ultimate source of that inspiration, which is all of the stuff that went into it to spit out the thing that makes my imagination fire, then it's like, then that's where it breaks down for me. So there's a part of me that's like, okay, I can see how talented producers can walk into this virtual session and have a vision and walk out with what they need. But you've just cut out an entire industry to get that thing, which is all of the decades of music that has gone into it to be able to spit that out in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But, and I think people who try to do that and maybe whatever happens with that, it will also prompt people to be like, that this is what I want. I don't want to do this with this cold interface. I want to get in a room with 5 real people and vision and do something. So I don't think that part is going to go away necessarily. And if anything, it will kind of give people like, oh, that's what I wanted to do anyways.
Sure.
I don't want to do it with prompts. I want to do it with people.
Yeah.
That's fair. Like, that's a fair point. I think in the sense of something he touched on was just that, you know, it's like we're discovering that everybody likes to make music. People like to make music and enjoy music, you know, even if they're not necessarily so talented. And to what you're saying, Kirk, like if you're looking at that as like a fun thing to do, right? We could all probably argue that that's probably fine as like some kind of creative outlet for somebody. Yeah. But I mean, clearly we're all on the same page. Is where it gets dicey is, well, now you start releasing albums and saying that this is your original work. That's so much different than being like, oh, wow, you know, I'm at my house and this is a really cool, you know, this is a really cool something I can use and I can like practice ideas and this and this. And I mean, in a way, it kind of feels like it's something that could help. It could maybe help somebody practicing music to just get more well-versed in like a different genre or something like that, right? Like, how can I put together, you know, something in this genre that I'm not super familiar with or draw inspiration from that? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's kind of like with all this stuff as it rolls out, those kind of things come up and you can't really see, you know, you can't plan for that or you can't see how it's going to go until it just kind of starts, you know, doing its own thing as it will.
But I wish that it was kind of like the economic side of things was a little clearer. Because right now, clearly, like Suno and Udio and others are way underpriced for what like it actually costs, you know, from an energy perspective, all the other perspectives, right, to generate this stuff. So I have no idea what it actually costs, but let's say it's like 5 times cheaper or 10 times cheaper than what it should be. Well, if you start charging people $50, $100 to generate one of these things, right? Or whatever it is, right? I don't know the exact monies here, but like if you're charging someone quite significant amount of money to use something like this because that's the cost it actually is to for all the energy and everything, right? Then it becomes a question, well, actually you can hire really top quality studio musicians, or you can hire students for very little to be able, if you have a vision like Kirk you're saying, because I agree with you, like that's a cool idea, but like, hey, I want 5 people to play on this track. You can do that. There's so many cheap ways. You can literally go to Fiverr and get passable stuff from there. Or you can go a little higher and you can go to whatever the one is on kind of associated with Spotify and you pay like $100, $150 for
sound
like
better.
Incredible sound. But that's the one. And like, you know, you can, I've used that a few times. Yeah, but I mean, I've had incredible cello parts come back for some tracks, like, you know, for $150. I mean, that is someone who's spent a huge amount of their time in their life practicing their craft, and so that they can then do that, you know, via Sound Better or whatever, and be able to create that in a relatively short space of time. But you are paying for that person's proficiency in that instrument. And then you end up with something really, really cool that you yourself could not have created, but another human has responded to what you have created, what you're asking them to do. And it's unique to your project. And that's one of the things for me is like, even however much you might be like, okay, well, I've kind of got this vision and I want it to kind of do these things, ultimately it's not going to be unique to your project because it's not really responding to the other stuff. It's just like regurgitating things it knows and things it should kind of go together. And however much you want it to like improve, like when I was messing around with it a while back for our kind of AI or not AI challenge, like one of the things that really stuck out to me is like, if it creates something and then you want it to change something, it can't. It does something completely different. Like it really cannot, like, or you want the hi-hat a little bit higher in the frequencies, or you want replace the bass drum with a clap or whatever silly thing you want. It can't do it. It really can't do that kind of stuff. No, it like just generates something which is vaguely similar because it thinks that's what you want. Now, I get this stuff will improve over time, but it's not the same as working with real human. You have a vision, go work with the people. It's going to cost money, but that's okay because there are real humans behind this. And if you're
right on that there.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to piggyback on that, and I think I'm going to come at it from a little bit of a different angle, but still very much like the humanness and the creation from the human side. I don't know if any of you guys caught it, but he like months ago, this same guy Shulman, he made the comment about how no one really enjoys the process of making music anymore. And we've argued about, I think we're all in agreement that that's a ridiculously dumb thing to say, but we talked about it. We've had discussion about that on the podcast. He tried to backpedal it and was just like, oh, I didn't really mean it like that. And, kind of said that thing. But what he did wind up saying is that there were a lot of points in music creation that are, I think he used the word tedious. So like there's a lot of points that are just tedious where you're dealing with this, or you're trying to figure this and that out. And then of course you bring that into light with him saying, well, these guys, finish this song, this fully formed song in 30 minutes. I think there's a real human nuance that is lost right there and part of it is just this day and age where we get everything like that. Like there is just this immediate instant gratification. But I think that the human brain, if we are losing the art, if we are losing as humans the ability, the willingness to struggle through something, like to do the hard thing, there are places that our brains go when we have sat, when we have wrestled, when we have been bored out of our minds. Like literally, and I know I've talked about it on the podcast, it's probably been a hot minute, but there is a podcast series. There's a book out there called Bored and Brilliant. And it's the idea of like putting your brain in that state of boredom is actually, for a certain period of time, is what really awakens your imagination to the place where it's just, it's like you're in the marinating tank for that. Like you're creating the, it's like a science experiment. You're creating the conditions for the thing to happen, and then it happens and you go for it. So if we are just saying that environment just doesn't interest me, if I can't get it in 4 seconds, then I don't want to have to deal with this. I think that really divorces some of not just the creativity out of it, but the humanness out of it. Like I want to know what my 9th idea on this new song I'm working on is by going through the 8 other ideas and deciding that one just didn't quite do it, and that one I don't like the tone of that one, and that one has too big of an interval, and that one's not interesting enough. But then you finally get to the like, oh, that's it. Like I have ruled out a bunch of other stuff, and I found the one that fits. Like the struggle makes it worth it at that point. And this is a wild analogy. It literally just popped up into my brain. I'm going through audiobooks with a couple of my kids in the car. Have any of you ever read Sideways Stories from Wayside School? It's like an old school children's book series. They're fabulous. They're just like weird little like short chapters of all these kids who are, it's just kind of, off the wall stuff. But there's this book has like a chapter per kid. There's 30 kids in the class. There's 30 chapters. And the story of this one girl, don't remember her name, but she was the best artist in the classroom. So when they announced it was art time, she just sat there, and it was like she was able to draw a cat in 30 seconds, and she could do a Christmas tree in 8 seconds, or she could do a ball in 3 or whatever. And then there was a buddy who he was like, I'm not a very good artist. It takes me the entire art period to draw one animal or whatever. So I may as well just feed her paper and hand her different colored, crayons and stuff. Cause she's like, look at how good of an artist she is. And, by the end of the hour, he's like sweating bullets. And she's like, I made 450 pieces, whatever. Like just, the measuring stick is, here's how much art I made. And then the teacher kind of called out the kid, like, where's your art? He's like, well, I'm not as fast as her, so I'm just going to help her go even faster. And she, clearly, of course, the point of all that was, well, it's not actually the quantity, it's the quality. If you spent your whole life on one painting that was just so detailed and so masterful, that's worth more than 5 million of these little things that the girl over here did. And yeah, I mean, the whole point of the story is, if it really just comes down to an equation for us, like I only have a half hour to to bring a song fully to life, as opposed to like, what, I have an idea, I want to see the song grow to the fullness of what it's going to be. That might take a couple hours. It might take way more than a couple hours. I might put in a couple hours on it and it's not close, and so I'm going to shelve it and I'm going to just marinate on it for a week or two, or I'm going to try to bring someone else in, like Ben was saying, or let's hire in this, or let's try this. The art of the struggle, I think, is crucial to the life of an artist. I think it's crucial to the life of humans, and the hard things are what make life worth it, I think. That's we could say that about anything. That's very much like a 50,000 foot view, like human perspective. Like, work for the stuff that you have to like work for is the stuff that's the most worth it. Yeah. But yeah, that I was just fascinated by his like, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of tedious. Be like, yeah, you know what else is tedious? Coding. You know what else is tedious? Like changing my infant's diaper. You know what else is tedious? Driving on the road trip to, get to this. Like, how much cooler would it be if we could just like instantaneously tell? Like, yeah, that would be cool. But also, like, it's fun, kind of the anticipation of the trip, and like, oh, guys, we're getting there, and you kind of make a thing. Like, it just, yeah. If all of life is just one efficient, this is an efficiency nerd who is saying this. If all of life is an efficiency problem that we are just trying to whittle down as close to near zero as possible, I think we're living for the wrong thing. So yeah, and I am like a recovering person. I feel like the leader of an AA meeting or something like that. Like, just I'm on this side of it, but also like it's very real, and we can get sucked right back into it if you're not careful. And yeah, there's so much more to all of this, especially art, than the efficiency equation of it. So yeah, I think that was my biggest thing in it personally.
Yeah. I totally agree with what you're saying. I'm trying to think of like what his pushback would be if he was here in the room. I feel like he would say that he's trying to say it's like, it's not so much an efficiency, it's like trying to reduce the friction of inspiration to output.
But whose inspiration is it, dude? Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's where you're at. And it's like, you can't get that original stuff without the human development, And so he's like, he's bypassing human development. And what is that going to do to culture? But he's trying to do it for culture, but it's like you're almost, what did they say? If you take a butterfly out of its cocoon too fast, it will never fly and it'll just die, because it has to go through the struggle of getting out of the cocoon in order to have the strength to fly. And so now you take a generation of people who are passionate about music and you say, well, here you go. Here's a way to make music. Do this, bypass all this, and now you have music. What will that do to that generation of culture that's now not having to go through the process of developing taste, skill, and all this kind of stuff? So, yep.
I love that, Kirk, and it makes me think of one other thing, which is this not a fully formed idea here, but like I feel like we don't always have the right to just create anything we could possibly dream up, right? Like in very few areas of our lives, can we just, okay, I want to have a house. I just have the right to just go and build it and just do it. No, there's a process there. You have to either buy the land, or maybe you live in a country where you're not allowed to. Okay, then you have to rent this, and then you have to do this, and you have to, there's a process, and there are frameworks to be able to go from where you are to kind of what you want to have, right? Be that something physical or really something digital. And in music, like identity is so kind of wrapped up in, like you're saying, Kirk, and culture in what music is. And I do kind of feel like I don't know if I have the right just to kind of write in any particular style I fancy. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But if I want to write in a specific style, I sure as anything need to practice and get good at that and understand that.
You would have
style.
to immerse yourself in that language. You would have to spend a significant amount of time developing the vocabulary, the skill set.
Right.
Yeah. And that
to make
would then afford
authentic.
you.
And I when I write music, it's coming from a place which is, my background, my understanding of music, my kind of inspiration from life. And then I can write something that is uniquely me. If I just I want to write a hip hop track today, well, I can maybe pastiche it a little bit, but it wouldn't be authentic. And there's something which is really off with that for me, that you're just kind of saying, hey, anyone can write anything just because they're inspired. No, I can enjoy people who write incredible hip hop music. That's awesome. Or, pick your other genre, right? But does that give me the right to create that and release that? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's where it's the property. It's the intellectual property. And it sounds like he read the law in a way that said, okay, if I do this to the property, then it becomes not property anymore. And then I can interpolate and repackage it, and it's a thing. Like, this might be a terrible example, but I have a dog and I need to do a dog house. And I'm looking online for dog houses, and I'm like, I don't want to buy this. I don't want to buy that. I don't want to buy this. And then I find you can go on Etsy, and it's like, here's a plan for a dog house. We'll give you the plan for the dog house. And it's, $17. And then you got to go to the store and buy all the wood and then make all the cuts. And then you put it together, and then you have the doghouse. And I was like, well, I'll try that. But then I was like, I don't really like that plan. I don't know, it was today or yesterday. I asked ChatGPT, I want a doghouse that's like this. This is how big my dog is. This is all I have is this tool. I have a skill saw and a hammer.
Honestly, you're asking the right questions.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, and I'm like,
Sorry,
give me
keep
a
going.
plan for a doghouse that's easy to make, and I'll make the cuts and all this kind of stuff. And it's like printed me out this thing. So now I didn't have to go on Etsy and buy someone else's plan. ChatGPT just gave me a plan, but I still got to go out and I got to go buy the wood. And I got to go put it together, and it's probably still going to suck because I don't know how to build anything. But it's like, but I did it, And after doing it, I would have gotten better at building something. But it's like there's still a part that I have to go. I took someone else's design, or ChatGPT took someone else's design from the internet and turned it into a design that now is my design. Now I could build the doghouse, take a picture of it, print out the design that ChatGPT gave me, put that online, and sell that design on Etsy.
Or you wonder how many people they're already 2 steps ahead of you, and all those things on Etsy.
Correct. All the ones that I bought are exactly that. Right.
Yeah.
Now the problem is I still have to go buy the wood and the nails and the glue and the paint. But now we're in a place where you don't have to do that. So it's going to come down to a real hard look at existing copyright law. What is property? Ones and zeros. What is property? Data sets. What is property? And then how does that property get divided? And they have to answer those questions. And then they have to say either definitively nobody owns it, or definitively it's going to be owned in these microbytes or bits or whatever. And then until that is defined, I feel like you cannot either do a walled garden or take Pandora's box out of the walled garden and put it into the marketplace. You cannot.
Yep. Very related to that, but also kind of slightly unhinged from that. Not unhinged. Unhinged, folks. Just pivoting slightly. I'm surprised that none of us up until right now haven't asked the question of the people who are typing in almost the exact same prompt you know, they're like, hey, I want it to sound like this, or I want to do that,
Right.
this and that. Like, how are we
How
just
different?
blindly believing that Suno's going to churn out something minusculely different for each one of those? Like that there's kind of a built-in fail-safe that says this is going to be a different instance of this than that. Like, what if I mean, maybe the words are all different, but what if it's almost the exact same thing? And I think that's another whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what's stopping anyone from doing the Etsy effect to any of the music? Oh, I heard that song, and I think that song's really great, and now I want to just essentially redo that song with my own vocal line. But yeah, just kind of cutting out all of the just interesting.
This is where I think like that. I think you maybe touched on this a little bit, Kirk, but like I think the premium skill, if you want to call it that whether artists or people who are doing this, like it is going to be like taste is going to be something that kind of separates a lot of that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like taste is going to be whether you're someone who plays music, for fun or professionally or not, or doesn't play any instruments, like that'll be interesting to see. I feel like that's going to be something that separates a lot of what can be done with that. And,
Absolutely.
I guess the direction it goes, whether it's the way we don't want it to go or not, that will be something that steers it in one direction or another, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is probably not the final time we talk about AI.
I am willing to bet that it is not. But you know what? It does never cease to amaze me. We keep talking about fresh angles of this or exploring new pieces. And I think, to be honest, and maybe this is silver lining, but I think it helps all of us. I know it helps me be a better human artist as I process through all these AI things. Like it just comes back to this place of almost a reassurance in a sense that the human made music that is coming out of each of us is important and that it exists for a reason. And again, tech it's not going anywhere, and I love tech. The intersection of AI infiltration in all this is pretty fascinating. So onward. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Suno.
By Suno.
Shulman, if you want to come on and defend yourself, by all means, we would love to have you. We'll do our best to not make it feel like it's 1 versus 4. We will give you every benefit of the doubt and every chance to defend yourself. And yeah, man, come on over. It'll be fun.
We'll have a jam session, garage style. Yeah.
But I've only got about 30 minutes, though. I think that's about the max that I could. Otherwise, just
exactly.
Man, grateful for each of you guys. This was awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks again for joining us on the All Ambient podcast. This is about as shameless of a plug as it gets, but it really does help for those of you who are watching to give us a rating if you're on any podcast platform like Apple or Spotify or anything like that. On YouTube, we would love a follow, a subscribe, a like, all that fun stuff. And please leave a comment, a review, whatever is applicable to the right place that you're finding this. It really does go a long way. You don't have to make anything up by any means, but if there's some value in this podcast for you, we'd love to hear about it. We, as the All Ambient family, would love to meet you. I know it does my heart good, as well as everybody else who's involved at All Ambient. So please do so. Come back and join us next week. We got another great episode coming your way. And until then, here's hoping that this music and the hearts behind it make your day and your life that much better. Thanks.